The nurse thought the night was finally over when she peeled off her gloves and checked the clock for the last time, unaware that the quiet hum of the hospital was about to be shattered by a moment that would change her life forever. Exhaustion sat heavy in her bones, the kind that comes not just from long hours, but from being invisible. She had no idea that within minutes, men trained for war would walk through those doors and address her with a respect she had never once received in that building. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet strength that the world often overlooks, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more real, heart-touching stories like this one. Her name was Hannah Collins, and she worked the night shift at a mid-sized hospital in Virginia, a place where fluorescent lights never slept and gratitude was often rationed. Hannah was known as dependable but forgettable, the nurse who never complained, who stayed late without being asked, who took the hardest patients because no one else wanted them. She had moved to the East Coast after a painful divorce, leaving behind a life in Oklahoma that had quietly fallen apart. The hospital job was supposed to be temporary, a way to survive while she rebuilt herself, but months turned into years, and her dreams shrank into 12-hour shifts and cold coffee. That particular night had been brutal. Short staffing meant Hannah was responsible for too many patients, including a badly injured man brought in under emergency conditions earlier that week. He had arrived unconscious, escorted by federal agents who spoke in clipped tones and avoided eye contact. His chart was sealed, his name redacted, his presence surrounded by an unspoken tension that made other staff uneasy. Hannah, as usual, had been assigned to him because she did not ask questions. She cleaned his wounds, monitored his vitals, and stayed longer than required when his condition worsened, even as some doctors dismissed the case as complicated and inconvenient. What no one noticed was how carefully she worked, how instinctively she responded when alarms changed pitch, how she recognized subtle signs others missed. Years earlier, before nursing school, Hannah had been a military medic's daughter, raised on stories of discipline, service, and sacrifice. She understood trauma in ways textbooks could not teach. That night, when the injured man's breathing faltered and the room filled with tension, it was Hannah who acted first, steady and precise, refusing to panic even as a senior physician hesitated. Her actions stabilized him, buying precious time. When the crisis passed, she was given no praise, only a curt nod and more work. By dawn, Hannah was running on fumes. She completed her final charting, washed her hands one last time, and changed out of her scrubs in the locker room. All she wanted was sleep. As she stepped back into the corridor, bag slung over her shoulder, she noticed something strange. Security was unusually alert. Administrators whispered near the nurses' station. Then came the sound of boots, measured and heavy, echoing down the hall with a rhythm that did not belong in a hospital. 6 men in uniform entered the ward, their presence commanding without a single word spoken. Navy SEALs, unmistakable in posture and bearing, moving with purpose and control. Conversations stopped. Staff froze. The men approached the very room Hannah had cared for all night. She instinctively stepped aside, assuming she was in the way, ready to disappear as she always did. Instead, the lead officer stopped and turned toward her. He addressed her with a formal respect that cut through the sterile air, calling her ma'am and thanking her for her service. The word service landed like a shock. Hannah stood still, confused, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. The officer explained that the man she had treated was a SEAL commander injured during a classified operation, someone whose survival had depended on the care he received in those first critical hours. A review of the medical logs and security footage showed that Hannah's actions had directly saved his life when others hesitated. The commander, now stable and awake, had asked specifically for the nurse who never left his side. For the first time since she started working there, people looked at Hannah differently. Doctors who had barely known her name now watched in silence. Administrators straightened their backs. The SEALs stood with quiet intensity, acknowledging her not as background staff, but as an equal in responsibility and courage. Hannah felt a pressure behind her eyes she fought to control. She had not done anything extraordinary in her own mind. She had simply done her job the best way she knew how. Yet in that moment, she realized how starved she had been for recognition, not applause, but simple respect. The kind that says your presence mattered. The commander could not stand yet, but his gratitude was conveyed through the men who spoke for him. They told her that in combat zones, medics were lifelines, and anyone who treated one of their own with that level of care earned their loyalty for life. The words settled deep in Hannah's chest, healing wounds she did not even know were still open. After they left, the hospital slowly returned to its routine, but something had shifted. Hannah walked out into the morning light feeling taller somehow, steadier. For years she had doubted herself, wondering if her quiet dedication meant anything in a world that celebrated loud success. That doubt loosened its grip. In the weeks that followed, changes came. A recommendation letter appeared in her file, written by someone whose name carried weight far beyond the hospital walls. She was offered advanced training opportunities, leadership responsibilities she had never been considered for before. More importantly, she began to see herself differently. She spoke up when something felt wrong. She trusted her instincts. The nurse who once wrapped up her shift trying not to be noticed now walked with purpose. One afternoon, as Hannah passed the room where it all began, she paused. The bed was empty, sheets neatly folded, sunlight filtering through the blinds. She placed a hand on the doorframe, a silent acknowledgement of how one ordinary night had rewritten her story. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that quiet people can carry extraordinary strength, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can be told. Before this video ends, we have a special request for you. Comment below with the words "Respect the unseen" if you believe that true heroes are often the ones no one is watching. Hannah Collins went home that morning and slept deeply for the first time in years, not because the world had changed overnight, but because she finally understood her worth. Somewhere out there, a man lived because she refused to be careless, and a team of warriors had called her ma'am, not out of habit, but out of honor. And sometimes, that is enough to remind us that even after the longest shift, life can still surprise us with meaning.